these are predictions that we are now seeing taking place. So Ibn Mas'ud said, yes, I mean the Romans. And at that time there will be a severe fighting, a fierce fighting. The Muslims will send a battalion to fight to death, and they will not return. They will die. They will fight until night. Neither side will be victorious over the other. On the second day, the Muslims will send another battalion, and they will fight to death, and they will not return victorious. On the third day, the same thing will happen. And then on the fourth day, so for 3 days, Muslims are going in, and it is going to be massacre after massacre. Nobody will remain alive from the first batches that go. On the fourth day, Allah Azza wa Jal will grant victory to the Muslims, and the enemy will be defeated. So there will be 4 days of battle somewhere in Bilad al-Sham. Now, is this the great Armageddon, or is this the precursor to the Armageddon? This is not the great Armageddon, it looks like. This is the precursor. This is a massive war that will take place before the Armageddon. Now the hadith goes on, and this is from the statement. This will be a battle the likes of which have never seen before. This is very terrifying. In human history, no battle has taken place that is more terrifying and more severe than that battle that will take place towards the end of times. And then Ibn Mas'ud said, and this is so powerful, and it's not Ibn Mas'ud, it is from the Prophet ﷺ, so much so that a bird that will fly over them will fall down dead. Now, you tell me, before I move on, you tell me, no matter how many people are killed by the swords on this land, will it affect a bird in the heavens? No. What will affect a bird in the heavens? Not swords. Get the point. Not swords. Something's going to happen that a bird in the heavens will be flying over, it will come down dead. And then the hadith goes on. Out of a family of 199 will perish and 1 will survive. The attrition rate in this war, 99%. Allahul Musta'an. What war in human history has had 99% death? None. I don't know of any. 99%. The victory was given to the 1%. 99%. And this is when the Prophet ﷺ said, Ibn Mas'ud said, so how can anyone be happy over ghanima or any inheritance be divided? In other words, may Allah protect all of us. If somebody were to give you $1 million but you have no family, wallahi, what sane person will choose that? Family is worth more than this whole dunya. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, how can anybody be happy when he gets all the ghanima and 99 of his family had that? He's nobody left, no parents, no children, nothing left. How can anybody be happy? What is the point of that ghanima? It's all gone. How will inheritance be divided when there will be no family left? So this war will destroy 99% of those fighting in it. While they are doing this, and they are finishing the battle, collecting the ghanima, recovering, they will hear there's a bigger calamity than this war. What could be a bigger calamity? Somebody will shout out, the Dajjal has come where your families have been left behind. So in that state, tired, bruised, bleeding, but their families are being attacked, whoever is remaining in the land that they left behind, Bilad al-Sham, wherever there is, they will run, they will rush back to that land, and they will discover that it is a lie. It is not true. And in one hadith it is mentioned that they will send their 10 best horsemen to go verify that news. The 10 fastest horsemen. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, I know their names and the names of their forefathers and the colors of their horsemen, the colors of their horses, and they will be the best horsemen on the face of this earth. Now, does this mean we will go back to horses and swords? If there is that type of war, in all likelihood we will. If there is that type of war, when nuclear weapons and whatnot and every side and whatnot, then we will go back to those days when there was no electricity and whatnot. We're going to go back to this. Or is it possible that when the Prophet is saying horse, he means a vehicle? This is also possible. It's not too much of a stretch, and Allah knows best. So this hadith mentions, now does this hadith mention the Mahdi? Yes or no? Where? But does this hadith mention the Mahdi? No, it does not. But other ahadith mention that the Mahdi will be the one that will be there when the news comes that the Dajjal is around. So it appears that this big war that is being referenced is a war that the Mahdi will participate in, even though he's not mentioned in this one, right? So it is a war between Ar-Rum and between the Muslims. It is a massive war. Now, many have said this hadith is a reference to the Armageddon. And it could be true. Because here's the point. Is the Armageddon one battle or is it a series of battles? It goes back. If it's only one battle, then in all likelihood that will be Dajjal and Isa ibn Maryam. But if it is a series of major battles, then it makes sense that this hadith in fact is one of those big battles of the Armageddon. Allah knows best. The next hadith we'll mention, which is a very cryptic one, and it has been used by the terrorist group known as the Islamic State as their basis. We don't agree with this group, and I have very publicly criticized them, and all you need to do is look at how much damage they have done a lot of times. And by the way, I gave many lectures about this. Obviously I'm new to the community still, but you will know inshallah when we go on. SubhanAllah, look at what the Prophet ﷺ said about the Kharijites, the Khawarij. He said, their speech is beautiful, but their actions are deadly. Their speech sounds good, it is sweet, but what they do is evil. And this is exactly what these groups, all of them, if you just listen to snippets, oh, we will re-establish Allah's command and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Then you look at what they do and the number of Muslims that they have killed and their tactics and you realize these are exactly the Khawarij, like the Prophet ﷺ said. Read the descriptions of the Kharijites. Look at what they did to the Sahaba. Look at their philosophy and attitude. And wallahi, you will see all of these groups. They might speak that which sounds like honey, but in reality, their harm is much worse than even the harm that non-Muslims do. And this is the reality that we see with our own eyes. So this group known as the so-called Islamic State, which is now on its last legs and it will inshallah be completely eliminated. This group used the hadith I'm about to quote you as its basis, as one of its main bases. And it is authentic hadith, and it is the hadith in Sahih Muslim. Abu Hurairah narrated that the judgment will not come until a room will come out to fight you at a place called A'maq or Dabiq. Now, Dabiq is, and A'maq is close to it, Dabiq is a city in Syria. And the so-called Islamic State took it as its capital. And they intentionally fought to get a small city, a very mid-sized or small-sized city. They wanted to capture that city. Why? Because it's mentioned in this hadith. And we had said a few weeks ago that it is not allowed to do what? Do you remember? I mentioned this very clearly. It is not allowed to do what? Write a screenplay from the hadith. We don't write a Hollywood drama from the hadith. It happens, it will happen. We do not extract a drama and enact it. We've seen what happened throughout history when people have attempted to do that. No, we don't do that. It happens, it will happen. But you don't think you are the one who's going to go do that. We have seen time and time again, people have attempted to do that and it has failed miserably. And one of the most important examples, this is another example of ISIS and Dabiq and whatnot. Another example we mentioned is Juhayman and his takeover of the Kaaba. And he thought he would enact all of the hadith that are mentioned, but he couldn't, because again, you have to pick and choose, just like over here. And anyway, so the hadith goes on that the Romans will come and fight you at a land called Ad-Dabiq, and the best of the people of earth from the city of Medina will leave Medina and fight against them. When they are getting ready for war, lining up for war, listen to this, very cryptic. The Romans will say to the Muslims, leave us with the group amongst you who have forsaken their religion. We want to fight them. I'll explain. The Muslims will say, La wallahi, we will never leave our brethren and will never abandon them to you. I'll finish the hadith and then explain. So the battle will rage on. The battle will rage on. 1/3 of the Muslims will retreat out of cowardice, and Allah will never forgive them. When the battle gets tough, they will flee, and the Prophet ﷺ said they will never be forgiven. 1/3 will be killed, and they will be the best of shuhada. They stood their ground, they died martyrs, and they will be the best of shuhada. And 1/3 will conquer, 1/3 will win. And they will not be tested. Maybe the test of the grave, maybe the test of the akhirah. They will not be tested. Allah will bless them and they will not be tested. And they, meaning that 1/3, will then conquer Constantinople. Again, we'll explain this in a while. It's a long hadith. When they will be dividing their ghanima, after they've hanged their swords on the, the trees to be oiled, then they will hear Shaitan cry out that Dajjal has appeared amongst your children. Thinking it to be true, they will march to fight the Dajjal, but they will find it to be a lie, and they will reach Bilad al-Sham, Syria, and when they have lined up to pray Fajr, that is when Isa ibn Maryam will come down after the Dajjal has actually come, and he will then lead the Muslims in war and battle. And when Aduwallah, the Dajjal, sees Isa ibn Maryam, he will melt like salt is dissolved in water. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if he were to be left in that state, he would die, but Isa will kill him, and the people will see the blood of Isa on the blood of Dajjal on the weapon of Isa. End hadith. Now, again, this hadith is very, very cryptic. It mentions many things. First and foremost, it also reiterates the previous concept of a massive war between the Romans and the Muslims. Now, in this hadith, it mentions 1/3 only will die, whereas the previous hadith mentions 99% will die. As I said, it appears there will be multiple battles, not just one. And in some of them 99%, and in some of them 1/3. This hadith mentions that this army will conquer Constantinople, whereas the previous hadith does not mention that. So maybe there are multiple wars going on in the world, and the Dajjal's announcement will take place in all of them. Shaitan's gonna frighten the Muslims. Dajjal is here. They're gonna be expecting Dajjal because they're seeing the hadith take place. So Shaitan will use it as a tactic. So maybe multiple groups will run back to Bilad al-Sham, and there they will be with the Mahdi, and the Mahdi will then be leading them in Salah, and Dajjal will actually have come at that point in time, and then Isa will come down, as we had mentioned. Another hadith that mentions all of these as well is that the Prophet ﷺ said, the fortress of Muslims on the day of the Malhama, this is where it is mentioned, the Armageddon, the Malhama, will be Ghuta, which is a city near Damashq, one of the best cities in Ash-Sham. This hadith is in Abu Dawood, it is authentic. 3 things are mentioned: Ghuta, Damashq, and Bilad al-Sham. Ghuta is a small city. It is still inhabited to this day, and it is maybe an hour or so outside of Damascus, or I don't know exact timing, but maybe a Syrian brother can tell me, but it's not far from Damascus. When the Prophet ﷺ said this hadith, Damashq, Ghuta, and Bilad al-Sham were the heartland of the Christian Byzantine Empire. This is like somebody saying, oh, Texas, California, these are not lands that belong to Islam. But the Prophet ﷺ predicted that Damashq and Ghuta will be a part of the Ummah. And that when the great Armageddon takes place, I'm translating Malhama as Armageddon. When the great Malhama takes place, the fortress, the base, the camp of the believers will be where? It will be in Ghuta. It will be in the city of Ghuta in Bilad al-Sham. And of course the concept of Bilad al-Sham is mentioned many times in the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, hadith is in Mustadrak al-Hakim, is authentic, when the fitan occur, Iman will be in Bilad al-Sham. When the fitan take place, when the big civil wars, Iman will be in Bilad al-Sham. Now let's pause for a while and look at these hadith and try to extract a series of incidents. What can we extract from all of this? So, first and foremost, realize that Bilad al-Sham doesn't just mean Syria. Bilad al-Sham in classical Arabic, pre-partition, when I say partition, don't think 1947, that's the partition of India, Pakistan and whatnot. I mean pre-partition, the Sykes-Picot Agreement. The Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1917, and then the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, which then enacted it. Before the partition of the Muslim Ummah, before England and France decided to carve up the Ummah and hand gifts out to the victors, and they took up the Ottoman Empire, before that, Bilad al-Sham was essentially what we now call Syria, and of course also Jordan, and of course Palestine, and of course the occupying land that I don't want to mention now. The country that is the occupying regime. So all of this was Bilad al-Sham. Okay? This entire region is called Bilad al-Sham. It's not just modern day Syria. Yes, Damashq is Bilad al-Sham, but Palestine is also Bilad al-Sham. And the cities of Palestine and the cities in the modern occupying state, all of them are Bilad al-Sham. Understand this point. Okay, so realize this. Secondly, it shows that towards the very end of all of these trials, the Muslims will be united and they will be fighting outsiders. They will be fighting non-Muslims. And the people from other lands will come, like Medina. They will come because they know that they have to now fight on the side of the truth. So the fact that even from Medina, people are traveling all the way to be fighting, it shows that they recognize what is going place. It is also very clear that these wars are taking place with the Mahdi being alive. And when the Mahdi is alive, there is no civil war. How can you fight when the Mahdi is on one side, right? So this is a war between the Mahdi and the believers on one side and the unbelievers on the other side. This is a very clear issue. It also shows, as I said, that in all likelihood we're talking about multiple wars. Or maybe, Allah knows best, the Mahdi himself is going region to region. In one battle, 1/3 will die. In another battle, 99% will die. Allah knows best. Again, we don't know. We're just putting all of these together. And the fact that the bird is mentioned shows that this isn't your typical war. That chemical or nuclear or whatever seems very likely in these types of a hadith. Wallahu al-musta'an. Also, what is this cryptic phrase where the Rum are going to say, hand us our brethren, and the Muslims will say, no, they are our brethren? What is all of this? This is very interesting. It appears, and Allah knows best, that there will be a large group of converts from Bilad al-Rum to the land of Islam, and they will be fighting on the side of the Mahdi and the Muslims. And the Bilad al-Rum are going to view them as being traitors. And from their perspective, they're right. From their perspective, they're right. They are traitors. So they will say, first, we want to deal with these guys because they betrayed us and our values. And the Muslims will say, what? They're not your guys, they're our guys. La wallahi, we will never abandon our brethren for you. This hadith is Sahih Muslim. It's really profound, and inshallah it indicates that there will be massive conversion. So much so that the Bilad al-Rum remnants are angry that how come you have those people? They're angry, they're irritated. And this also shows that these hadith are not anti-Semitic or anti-Western. No, it is good versus evil. And you will find people of all ethnicities on the side of good. And you will find people of all the ethnicities on the side of evil as well. We talked about this last week. These hadith are not anti-Semitic. There will be righteous people who see the truth and they will be fighting on the side of truth. And that's why the other group will demand we want them back to us. Another hadith, now we move on to other hadith and then again go back. As for the issue of Qistantiniya, we'll come back to it. A very interesting narration goes back to Ibn Hawala, Abdullah ibn Hawala. He has a number of interesting narrations about Judgment Day. Abdullah ibn Hawala, the Prophet ﷺ said, O Ibn Hawala, when you see the Khilafah having been descended to Al-Ard al-Muqaddas, which is Jerusalem, when you see the Khilafah having been descended to Ard al-Muqaddas, then know that the zalazil and the fitan and the balaya are coming, meaning the great wars and whatnot are going to happen, and that qiyamah is closer to mankind than my hand is to you or to your head. So his hand was on Ibn Hawala's chest or whatnot. So know that qiyamah is closer to mankind than my hand is to you. Now this hadith tells us there shall be a khilafah, but not based in Mecca or Medina, not based in Iraq like the Abbasids, not based in Damashq like the Umayyads, but rather based in Al-Ard al-Muqaddas. إِذَا نَزَلَتِ الْخِلَافَ بِأَرْضِ الْمُقَدَّس. Now, in all likelihood, this is the Mahdi. Some have said maybe it's before the Mahdi. I am highly skeptical. There's too many ahadith that mention civil war and fighting and whatnot. And the ummah has never been united since the time of Uthman radiallahu anh and Ali. Do you think it's going to get united again? But we strive for unity. But realistically, it's not going to happen until the Mahdi comes. Also, our Prophet predicted that the Khilafah will come back towards the end of times. ثُمَّ تَكُونُ خِلَافَةً عَلَى مِنْهَاجِ النُّبُوَّةِ Hadith is in Musnad Imam Ahmad. Then there shall be a Khilafah upon the prophetic methodology. In all likelihood, this is, Allah knows whether this ijtihad is correct or not, but in all likelihood, it seems to be none other than the Mahdi himself. And the Prophet ﷺ is telling Ibn Hawala, when the Mahdi comes, judgment is going to come tomorrow. And that's very true. When the Mahdi comes, go to him, be with him, and the judgment is going to be the very next day, basically, meaning immediately after that. And that's, again, very clear.